This was supposed to be an attack on China, and now suddenly the president is talking about drugs in Mexico and Canada mistreating farmers. I want to bring my panel in. Washington Post White House Bureau Chief Phil Rucker, who had an amazing piece out this weekend, Republican strategist Evan Siegfried, and Princeton University professor Eddie Glaude. Phil, to you, you wrote about the president's state of mind. Do you think he ultimately walks this thing back? Because people are saying this is Wilbur Ross versus Gary Cohn. This is President Trump versus the law.
Yeah, he certainly could walk it back. I've covered him long enough to know that nothing's final until it's final, because he's a president who changes his mind on stuff all the time. But I would point out he's had a nationalist posture on trade dating back to the 1980s. This is one of the few issue areas where he has a core conviction and a core belief, and he's held to it through his various flirtations with politics over the years, including his campaign of 2016 and then in the presidency. So I wouldn't be surprised if he sticks to this, these new tariffs, but again, he could certainly change his mind. Except, of course, this policy would not give President Trump, Evan, the end result he's looking for. I go back to the beginning when we said this is to go after China. Where are we doing that?
They gave him a great dinner in Beijing, so why not? I mean, this is really... If the president had bothered to actually read his subscription to Forbes magazine instead of being spanked by it, he'd realize that the GOP orthodoxy is that tariffs like this are actually bad. Trade wars are bad. They hurt the American consumer. Now, there are 140,000 steel jobs in the United States. And yes, it's good to try and protect them and help those American workers. But at the expense of 5 million other manufacturing jobs, you have car companies who are from foreign car companies who have plants in South Carolina, Texas, Alabama, and they are going to have to lay off workers. And the president's saying, well, these, or Wilbur Ross particularly, are saying, well, you know, the costs won't really be passed on to the consumer. But that's a load of horsehooey. We actually have in our party an argument when Bernie Sanders says we should raise taxes. We say, yes, it's going to be passed on to the consumer. But now we're ignoring that. The consumer, so if you're going to be going out and buying a $35,000 car, they're going to be paying an extra $175 because of these tariffs. And that is 20% of the tax cuts which the president has been touting. Why are you going to harm the economic progress of the nation? It doesn't make sense, and the president is 100% wrong.
Steel isn't the only thing in Pennsylvania. Last I checked, Hershey's was. Hershey's, those Hershey Kisses, what do you think they're wrapped in? Aluminum foil.
Love.
Yuengling beer, love, yes. Yuengling beer, those cans come from the state of PA. Eddie, I want to read from you part of that Washington Post report where they say Trump's friends are increasingly concerned about his well-being, worried that the president's obsession with cable commentary and perceived slates is taking a toll on the 71-year-old. Pure madness, lamented one ally. Here's what I find really interesting. A lot of those allies are the Palm Beach set. And 2 weeks ago, they were saying, turn down the volume on the TV. Don't worry, it's Trump being Trump. But now, this is going to affect markets, and they certainly don't like that. So suddenly, Trump friends are saying, Gary Cohn, Steve Mnuchin, help Trump fly straight. But where's Mitch McConnell? Where are Republicans starting to say, this doesn't work for us?
Right. So it seems to me that Trump is okay when he's in alignment with Republican policy. When he's not, then something's wrong with him. We need to worry about his mental stability. And then there's the question of the adults in the room supposedly furnishing a ballast or providing a ballast for him. And so the question is what are the adults in the room doing at this moment? But I think it's really important. I want to echo something that Phil Rucker said. I think this policy is actually consistent with who Donald Trump is. Remember a long time ago when Steve Bannon talked about the 3 buckets? We're going to deconstruct the administrative state. We're going to have something about national sovereignty and economic nationalism. This is the economic nationalist piece. And Jonathan Swan in Axios was reporting that there's this debate that he had between Ross and Navarro and Cohn and Mnuchin, right? And what did he say? I didn't think you guys were globalists. Right? I'm a nationalist. He's described that language of globalist. So this is actually consistent with Donald Trump's actual core belief.
But how dangerous is this, Phil? We've heard, I just saw Anthony Scaramucci a week ago saying, listen, When the economy is doing so well, when the markets are doing so well, you don't see Americans turn against the president. If the economy takes a turn, gets hit, the markets get hit based on these policies, won't that hurt President Trump?
By any laws of politics, it should. I mean, the one good thing, the best thing Trump has going for him right now is the state of the economy. The indicators are strong. The Republicans are counting on the economic indicators to carry them through these midterms this November. And if Trump starts, making moves that jolt the markets, he could be in for some trouble.
I want to talk a little bit about the power of a Trump tweet, the power of Trump going after places like Canada and Mexico. It's pretty crafty of the EU to say, we're going to go after bourbon, we're going to go after blue jeans. They're savvy enough to say, we're going to go after Trump country. Does it show in some way that the emperor has no clothes when a bully uses the same tactics over and over again? Over time, people aren't afraid.
No, they're not afraid, but you're seeing the markets just being spooked because even though they're not afraid of him, they know he has the power to actually move the markets. I think Phil was actually right in that he was talking about how this is going to impact in the elections. I think that even despite how well the economy is going, Republicans have a very, very tough road ahead. We saw it in 2017. It didn't help Republicans. We're seeing it in 2018 in the special elections. There's a visceral reaction among the electorate toward Trump and Republicans. The generic congressional ballot is Democrat plus 15 to 20, depending upon where you look. And in a state like Pennsylvania, when you start hurting them economically, you only need 6 seats, or you can probably get 6 seats in Pennsylvania. That's a quarter of the seats you need to take back the House of Representatives. And if you get those, you're well on your way. And on top of that, Trump talks about standing up to China, and that's why he wanted to do the tariffs in the first place. When has he stood up to China? Did he stand up to them when they were stealing our IP? Did he stand up to them when they were engaging in aggressive geopolitical and economic colonization of other countries like the Bahamas, Greece, Africa? No. In fact, Donald Trump violated his pledge of no new foreign business deals while he was president for a wholly owned and operated company by the Chinese government called China State Construction Engineering Corporation. And you know who runs it? Xi Jinping. So why is Donald Trump standing up to China by saying thank you for that nice little business deal?
Standing up, he's admiring. He's looked at Xi Jinping, who could now be a lifetime ruler, and saying, I want to get on that train. Eddie, I want to talk about President Trump has been brilliant in gaining the loyalty from people from Trump country, from the farm community. But is he going to deliver for them? Because Canada, to the point we just made, already threatened to retaliate. Mexico could do the same. If that happens, farmers, they're the ones who could get hit the hardest. I want you to look at this. Between Canada, China, Mexico, and the European Union, they imported nearly $70 billion of U.S. agriculture in 2016. If countries cut back on those products, farmers could get hit the hardest. When President Trump first won, and he said, I want to go after NAFTA,
right,
it was his ag secretary who came to him with an electoral college map and said, sir, these are your farm counties. These are who voted for you. You're going to hit them. Where do you think they send their milk and eggs?
So there's that. The reality is very clear that if the trade war is executed, if it's launched, then we're going to have some serious effects on everyday ordinary people, and particularly workers. But there's an irony here, Stephanie. When you listen to Trumpka, the president of AFL-CIO, when you listen to Leo Gerard of the U.S. Steelworkers, they're excited about this. Right? And so what we have here is this interesting kind of tension, not between Republican orthodoxy and liberal democratic unions or democratic-leaning unions, but what we have here is this reality that everyday American workers are catching hell in the economy as it is currently organized. Trump came in saying, I'm going to change the game. Right? Because we need to do something to help workers, right? We know the tax policy isn't going to help workers, right? This is kind of a little something to give them the illusion that it's going to help them. But what we do know is that whether you're farming or whether you're working in a steel mill or whether you're working cleaning up a building here at 30 Rock, right? You need some help. And Trump is trying to give the illusion that he's trying to do something.
Give the illusion. All right, Phil Rucker, last call to you. What do you think this is going to look like? My guess, tariffs, 25 and 10. We'll get something, but it's not going to look like that.
I think you might be right. I mean, I think Trump may give in just a little bit here. This seems to be an ongoing negotiation for him that, of course, is playing out on Twitter, as some of his negotiations do.
By his own hand.
By his own hand, that's right. I don't know where it's going to land, but he's certainly taking a lot of input. There are people inside his administration, but also most definitely on Capitol Hill in his own party who have strong opposition to this, who are going to be trying to make their case as persuasively as they can.
They're focused on it. Markets focus on it. Everybody is. Evan is, because those Hershey Kisses, they're made with love, and they're wrapped in aluminum foil.